Let's be honest. We live in the age of avocado toast and protein bowls now. But do you know what's often missing? Heart. And real flavor. My German grandma's food from the 70s wasn't just better. It was more honest, warmer, full of soul. Back then there was falscher Haze and Kalter Hund, dishes that hardly anyone knows today. Why is that? Have we forgotten how good simple food can taste? I remember it so clearly. It was a rainy Sunday during the holidays. Grandma stood for hours in her small kitchen, and outside the rain was drumming against the window. And then, that smell slowly filling the whole house. From simple ingredients, she cooked up something that tasted like home. It wasn't fancy, but it was everything you needed to feel safe and warm. Today I'm taking you on a little trip back in time to Grandma's forgotten German favorite dishes from the 70s. Simple, hearty, sweet and full of soul. Let's discover together what was on the table back then and why these dishes are still remembered today. Dish number 1, sausage goulash with noodles. Now that might not sound super fancy, not like something you'd find in a high-end restaurant. But back then, in our family, it was a real treat. It was more than just food. It was a feeling of home, of comfort and warmth, especially on cold winter days. The smell that came from the pot filled the whole house. Simple, hearty, and incredibly satisfying. Making it was actually pretty simple, but the quality of the ingredients made all the difference. Grandma always cooked with so much love and care, picking out and getting every ingredient ready just right. In the end, a dish would be on the table that made everyone happy. Grandma always said, "The good sausage makes the goulash," and she was right. That was her secret to the perfect sausage goulash, and maybe even for a little more joy at the dinner table. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old when I first got to help cut the sausage. Of course, I secretly snacked on half of it. Grandma saw me but didn't say anything, just smiled slyly. It was our little secret. Those moments, when I got to help her in the kitchen, were really special to me. And yes, the sausage goulash always tasted best when I'd made it with her. Dish number 2, semolina slices with sugar and cinnamon. Quick to make, cheap, and still a little piece of heaven. Semolina slices were Grandma's secret weapon against any bad day. When the rain was pouring outside, she would whip up a warm, comforting meal with just a few ingredients that instantly lifted everyone's spirits. Boil milk, stir in semolina, let it cool, cut into thick slices, and fry until golden brown in butter. So simple, so brilliant. The smell alone was enough to draw us all into the kitchen. We always had cinnamon and sugar with it, or if we were lucky, homemade applesauce. And that comforted me better than any therapy session. One spoonful of that, and the world was right again. When I was sick, Grandma made me semolina slices. I lay on the sofa, snuggled in a blanket, and then she came with a plate warm, sweet, full of love. In that moment, I knew everything would be okay again. Dish number 3, ground meat pot with sauerkraut. That was Grandma's after-work hit. Ground meat, sauerkraut, tomato paste. Everything went into one pot, a good stir, lid on, and then it was allowed to simmer slowly. It was simple, quick, and always feeling perfect after a long day. She often cooked this when my grandpa had the late shift. Then we sat together in the small kitchen, and I always got to scrape out the pot with a thick piece of bread. That was the best part for me, the last bits, full of flavor and love. And today, hardly anyone would think of combining ground meat and sauerkraut anymore, but that was Grandma's magic, unconventional, but brilliant. It was a simple dish that brought us all together, and one I will never forget. Dish number 4, falscher Haze, which means false hair, but it's really meatloaf. Grandma's meatloaf was always special. It was golden brown and crispy on the outside, and inside, a juicy secret, the egg in the middle. Just cutting into it brought so much joy. The end piece with the thickest crust was always my favorite. We had it with yummy mashed potatoes and peas, and it just felt like home. For me, Grandma's meatloaf is more than just a recipe. It's childhood, comfort, and a piece of family history on a plate. Dish number 5, eggs in mustard sauce. Hard-boiled eggs, cut in half and resting in a flavorful, slightly sweet mustard sauce, sometimes with a hint of spice, just like Grandma liked it. And with it, Boiled potatoes that soak up the sauce and bring everything together. Simple, honest, comforting. A dish that tastes especially good on cold days. When money was tight, we often had this meal. But for me, it was never a sign of not having enough, but a sign of home. I loved it, because it tasted like love, care, and childhood. Dish number 6. Liver with onions and apple slices. Tender fried liver with sweet and juicy apple rings and golden brown braised onions. A dish that divided the family. Some turned up their noses, others loved it from the start. But that's exactly what shows how clever and creative Grandma's cooking was. She made something special out of simple ingredients that stays in our memory to this day. As a kid, I hated liver, really, but eventually, as I got older, I learned to love it. Today I know. That was Grandma's power food for everyday life. She strengthened us with it, even if we didn't understand it back then. Dish number 7. Spinach with egg and potatoes. Deep green creamed spinach, perfectly seasoned with nutmeg, with a golden brown fried egg with a runny yolk, and next to it, potatoes, mashed with a fork so they can soak up the sauce. This dish was pure childhood for me, simple, honest, and always a little comfort on grey days. Grandma always put a splash of vinegar over the spinach. As a kid, I thought it was awful. Today, I do the exact same thing, and every time I have to smile. Some traditions only taste good when you're grown up. Dish number 8. Lentil Stew. Plate lentils, soup vegetables, potato cubes, and smoked bacon. That was Grandma's lentil stew. And if it was a good day, there were even a few slices of sausage with it. Simple, hearty, honest, and always a feast for the whole family. One pot often lasted for 3 days, and with each day the stew got even better. Grandma always said, "This is how you cook for people, not for pictures." It was about warmth, about getting full, about being together. And you could taste exactly that with every spoonful. Dish number 9, potato pancakes with applesauce. Golden brown and crispy on the outside, soft and juicy on the inside. That's how potato pancakes should be. Made from raw potatoes, freshly grated, mixed with onions and a little flour, then fried in hot oil. Served with a dollop of applesauce, sweet and cold. That contrast was always the best part for me. When the smell filled the kitchen, I knew, today is a special day. And when the pancake sizzles in the pan, that's the sound of my childhood. That sound, the sizzling, always made me happy. It was like a promise that something delicious was waiting for me. Dish number 10, barley soup. That was Grandma's classic for cold days. Pearl barley, slowly cooked until soft in a rich broth with carrots, celery, leeks, and a few flavorful bacon cubes. Everything was cooked for hours on a low flame until it was creamy and filling. It was simple, down to earth, and maybe a little plain. But when the smell filled the kitchen, everyone knew. It's time to get cozy. For many, it was the most unremarkable meal. But for me, it was comfort in a bowl, warm, filling, and full of childhood memories. Sometimes it's the simple dishes that give us the most comfort. Dish number 11, braised cucumbers with minced meat. That might sound a bit unusual at first. Cucumbers that are slowly cooked until soft in cream, broth, and onions. Then, there's minced meat, browned in a pan, and everything is finished with fresh dill. It's a simple dish, but full of flavor and memories of Grandma's cooking. As a kid, I always thought, cucumbers, warm, that can't taste good. But when Grandma made braised cucumbers, the whole house smelled like summer, like childhood, and like happiness. Today, I know. It's exactly these kinds of dishes that stay with you. I often helped peel and slice the cucumbers. It was always a little adventure, and in the end, we'd all sit together at the table. And suddenly, warm cucumbers tasted really good to me. Dish number 12, boiled potatoes with quark and linseed oil. Freshly cooked, steaming potatoes, plus quark, mixed with fresh herbs from Grandma's garden. A splash of linseed oil, nutty and golden, makes the whole thing special. It's simple, rustic, healthy, and tastes like childhood and summer holidays in the countryside. On hot days, this was our favorite meal. No meat, no sauce, just quiet, fresh air and pure enjoyment. We sat together at the table, and every bite was like a little break from everyday life. Dish number 13, Königsberger Klopsi. These are tender meatballs made from ground meat, served in a light, creamy caper sauce. They taste mild, a little bit sour with a hint of spice. We always had them with potatoes, which soaked up the sauce perfectly. For me, this dish was a real discovery, a classic that brings comfort and childhood memories to your plate. Grandma always shaped the meatballs with her hands. They were never the same size, but always equally delicious. She used to joke that the best meatballs don't have to be perfectly round. The smell that filled the kitchen while they were cooking was one of a kind. And in the end, they always tasted like home, like love, like tradition, like grandma. Dish number 14, French toast. Stale white bread, soaked in a mix of egg and milk, then fried golden brown in butter. That was grandma's French toast. Crispy on the outside, soft on the inside, sometimes sprinkled with sugar and cinnamon, sometimes baked with cheese on top. A simple dish that we loved and always felt a bit like a holiday meal. What others might have thrown away became a feast for us. Grandma had a special touch for making something amazing out of almost nothing. That was her superpower. In her kitchen, leftovers became a favorite dish, and every bite was a treat for us. Dish number 15, potato soup with leek and celery, either blended smooth or still chunky, just how Grandma liked it. We'd add sliced hot dogs or sometimes half a hard-boiled egg. The soup was thick, hearty and warming, a real comfort on gloomy days. When the rain was drumming against the windows outside, this stew would be on the table. And then, for me, everything in the world was always just right. Dish number 16, semolina pudding with cinnamon and sugar. Grandma's semolina pudding was always perfect. Never burned, never too firm, always just right. She never looked at the clock, but always just into the pot. Then cinnamon and sugar on top, or warm cherries too. Simply a delight. I still remember. When I was sick, I would lie on the sofa, snuggled in a blanket. Then Grandma would come into the room with a warm plate of semolina pudding. I don't know if it really helped, but I immediately felt safe and comforted. Dish number 17, cold dog, layer by layer, butter biscuits, and in between, a thick, chocolatey mixture of coconut fat, cocoa, powdered sugar, and egg. Everything stacked in a loaf pan, then hours in the fridge, not baked, but chilled. For me, it was always a small miracle. From such simple ingredients, Grandma's famous cold dog was created, the star of every children's birthday party. And the best part, I always got to cut the first slice, the thickest one with the most chocolate. Grandma would smile at me. She knew exactly what really mattered. That first slice was always a piece of childhood happiness. Dish number 18, rice pudding with apple compote, slowly cooked with a pinch of cinnamon. Warm, creamy, a touch of childhood, plus Grandma's homemade apple compote, still steaming, sweet and slightly tart. The smell filled the whole kitchen and promised comfort on gloomy days. This wasn't just a side dish. It was childhood happiness in a bowl. One spoonful and the world was right again. Dish number 19, lemon cream ice cream. Cream, sugar, lemon, gelatin, all mixed into a fine blend and frozen super cold. The result, a creamy, sweet and sour lemon ice cream that melts in your mouth and is too often underestimated. For me, it was always a little luxury that tasted like summer and childhood. Whether sprinkled with fresh lemon zest or plain, this ice cream was Grandma's secret tip for hot days. It wasn't just a dessert, but a piece of family history that brought us all together at the table. Grandma always said, "This is our ice cream." And she was right. It was better than anything you could buy. Homemade with love and always a refreshing treat. Grandma's favorite dishes were never meant for pictures. They were there to fill you up, to comfort you, and to bring people together. It was never about the perfect photo, but about the feeling of being safe at the table, about sharing and laughing. These dishes were like a warm hug, honest, simple, and full of love. Even today, I often cook like my grandma did back then, real, filling, and with a lot of heart. Because every time I cook her recipes, I feel a piece of my childhood and family. And I pass that feeling on. If watching this video makes you think of your grandma or a nearly forgotten taste from your childhood, then please do me a favor, share that memory with us. What's your favorite dish? I'm really curious what foods hold a special place in your heart. Write it in the comments and tell us about your forgotten favorite dish. And while you're at it, Share this video with someone who deserves a little nostalgia and would love a memory of grandma's favorite dishes. And of course, if you're in the mood for even more trips back to your childhood, then feel free to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Bye for now, and see you next time.